Welcome back to the Deep Dive, and today we have a very special edition. If you are part of the Simplified UPSC by PPP community, then you are in exactly the right place.
It's good to be here.
And if you're just a curious learner stumbling upon us, get ready, because we are about to decode the engine of the modern world.
Engine is quite literally the right word for today's topic. We are talking about the machinery that, actually builds nations.
Absolutely. But before we get the gears turning, I have a quick question for you listening right now. Ever wonder why your car was likely made in, say, Pune or Chennai? Or why the shirt you're wearing right now probably started its journey in a cotton field in Maharashtra, but was maybe stitched in a completely different state?
It sounds like a bit of a logistical puzzle, but it's really a story of economic value, isn't it?
Exactly. Today, we aren't just reading a textbook. We are decoding the backbone of the economy manufacturing. This is the bridge between raw resources and the developed nation status that India aspires to.
A crucial bridge.
It is. Now, a humble request before we dive in. If you find value in what we do here, please subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel. It really supports the mission of bringing this kind of super useful content directly to you.
And for those of you who are able and want to ensure this series keeps running, there's a Patreon link available, and a massive warm shout out to all our current supporters. You truly make this content creation possible.
Yes, thank you all so much. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a valuable comment. It actually helps the algorithm find other learners just like you.
It really does.
Okay, now, for the serious students among you, we have free notes with practice previous year questions, or PYQs, available on our public Telegram channel.
And for the premium experience, we're talking organized notes, detailed explanations, extra PYQs, and even model mains answers. You can join the private Telegram library.
How do they do that?
Just DM the public channel to get access to all the videos and notes in this series at once.
Okay, business aside, let's unpack this thing. We are looking at NCERT Class 10 Geography, specifically Chapter 6, Manufacturing Industries. But we aren't just summarizing, are we?
Oh no, simple summary wouldn't be enough for this audience. We are integrating specific UPSC Mains previous year questions. We're looking at questions from 2013, 2014, 2016, 2020, and even the 2025 paper.
So the mission here is what? To tune static geography facts into something more.
The mission is to transform those static facts into dynamic economic arguments. Arguments that you can actually use in General Studies Paper IN3.
I love that, turning facts into arguments. So let's start at the very, very beginning. What exactly is manufacturing? I mean, we use the word all the time, but what's the textbook definition?
It's quite a precise definition. Manufacturing is the production of goods in large quantities after processing from raw materials to more valuable products.
The more valuable products. That phrase right there, that's the key, isn't it?
That's the entire game. Precisely. Think about it. Paper is manufactured from wood, sugar from sugarcane. You take something raw, like a log of wood, and you turn it into something with much higher utility and, well, a much higher price tag.
So iron and steel from iron ore, aluminium from bauxite. In each case, you take something raw and sort of limited in its use, like a pile of reddish rocks, and you process it into something foundational, a steel beam.
Exactly. And sometimes it's a chain. The output of one industry becomes the input for another. Yarn, for instance, is a manufactured product, but it's also the raw material for cloth.
Right, which then becomes the raw material for a garment factory.
It's all about that value addition at each step. The people employed in this, the secondary sector, are all just adding value. Whether it's a worker in a steel factory, a car plant, a brewery, or a bakery, they are all part of this transformation.
Okay, so the text calls the manufacturing sector the backbone of development. That's a really strong claim. So why? Why is it the backbone?
It's a multi-layered argument. And this is where you start building your answer for a mains question on economic development. So the first point is the modernization of agriculture.
Which seems counterintuitive. I think we usually picture industry versus agriculture, you know, like they're fighting for resources or for government attention.
Right, that's a common misconception. But they are, in fact, symbiotic. We can dig into that in a second. But manufacturing provides the tools that make modern agriculture possible.
The tools? You mean things like tractors and...
Tractors, pumps, fertilizers, insecticides, PVC pipes. You simply cannot have a modern high-yield farm without a factory behind it, producing all that equipment.
Okay, that makes sense. So it literally props up the primary sector. What else makes it the backbone?
Secondly, and this is absolutely crucial for a country like India, it drives the employment transition.
Employment transition. You mean moving people off the farm, right?
Yeah, exactly. Manufacturing reduces the heavy dependence of people on agricultural income by providing jobs in secondary and tertiary sectors. You can't have a developed economy if half your workforce is stuck in low-income, often subsistence, farming. You need a sponge to absorb that labor.
And move them up the value chain.
Precisely. It's about creating better, more productive jobs.
Okay, so it modernizes agriculture, it provides jobs. What's the third point?
Trade and foreign exchange. The export of manufactured goods expands trade and commerce, and it brings in much-needed foreign currency.
So it's how a country gets rich, basically.
Look at any prosperous country in the world. The US, Japan, Germany, China. What do they have in common? They are masters at transforming raw materials into a wide variety of finished, high-value goods. India's prosperity literally lies in increasing and diversifying its manufacturing base.
You mentioned earlier that agriculture and industry go hand in hand. Can we dig a bit deeper into that? Because like I said, I feel people often pit them against each other in debates.
The source material is very clear on this. They are not exclusive of each other. They move forward together. Agro-industries in India have given a major boost to agriculture just by raising its productivity.
How so? Is it just by creating a reliable market for the crops?
That's a huge part of it, yes. They depend on agriculture for their raw materials. Think cotton, sugarcane, jute. So they create a steady demand. But then, crucially, the industry sells products back to the farmers.
So it's the cycle we talked about. The irrigation pumps, the fertilizers.
Irrigation pumps, fertilizers, insecticides, PVC pipes, machines, tools, you name it. It's a virtuous cycle. The industry demands raw materials, which pushes farmers to produce more. And the industry supplies the tools that help those farmers produce more efficiently.
So the development and competitiveness of the manufacturing industry has not only assisted agriculturists in increasing their production, but also made the production processes themselves much more efficient.
You've got it. It's a feedback loop of productivity.
Okay, I want to hit you with some data from the notes.
Yeah.
Because for any good UPSC answer, you absolutely need numbers.
Always. Arguments without data are just opinions.
So the source mentions that the share of the manufacturing sector has stagnated at about 17% of GDP. It sounds a little low to me.
It is low, especially compared to our potential. It's important to be precise here. The total contribution of industry to GDP is around 27%. But that bigger number includes mining, quarrying, electricity, and gas. Manufacturing, the core value-adding part, is stuck at 17%.
And how does that 17% compare to, say, our neighbors in Asia?
It's a stark contrast. If you look at the East Asian economies, the Asian tigers as they were called, their manufacturing contribution to GDP ranges from 25 to 35%.
Wow. So we are significantly behind that benchmark. That's a huge gap.
A very significant gap. The trend of growth over the last decade that the text discusses was around 7% per annum, which isn't bad, but the desired growth rate for the next decade is 12%.
That's ambitious. So is there a plan to get there?
Well, there's a body that was set up for this purpose. The NMCC, or the National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council, their whole objective is to achieve that 12% target through appropriate policy interventions.
And has it worked?
The text notes that since 2003, manufacturing did start growing again at around 9 to 10%, so there's been some success. The challenge, as always, is to sustain and accelerate that growth.
Okay, so we know what it is and why it matters. Now let's talk about where it happens. This is one of my favorite parts of geography. The logic of industrial location. Why is a factory where it is?
It is never, ever random. The underlying principle is what we call a least cost decision model.
The least cost. So it's pretty simple then. You just find where it's cheapest to make the thing.
Well, it's simple in principle, but cheap is a combination of many, many factors. The source lists the key influences: availability of raw material, labor, capital, power, and of course, the market.
And I'm guessing you can't always find all of those 5 things in one perfect spot.
Almost never. It's a unicorn. So manufacturing activity tends to locate at the most appropriate place where all these factors of industrial location are either available or can be arranged at a lower cost.
So it's a negotiation.
The trade-off.
Exactly. It's a constant negotiation.
Yeah.
Maybe you have cheap labor, but the power grid is unreliable. Maybe you have access to raw materials, but you're 1,000 kilometers from your main market. You have to balance the books.
And this whole process, this clustering of industry, that's what drives urbanization, isn't it?
It absolutely does. Industrialization and urbanization go hand in hand. It works both ways. Once an industry starts, urbanization follows. But also, industries will often choose to locate near existing cities to take advantage of the markets and the services that cities provide.
Services like what? Banking, insurance, legal advice?
Banking, insurance, transport, labor, consultants, financial advice, all of it. This is what economists call agglomeration economies.
Agglomeration economies. That's a great term. Let's bookmark that for a minute. Can you break it down? It just means that many industries tend to come together to make use of the advantages offered by urban centers. A large car factory, for instance, will attract a tire factory.
And a glass factory and a seed manufacturer.
Exactly. And then they all need a logistics firm to move their goods, and a bank to handle their finances, and consulting firms to improve their processes. They cluster, and that cluster becomes more efficient than the sum of its parts.
The text mentions a really fascinating historical shift here. In the pre-independence period, where were most industries located?
They were located from the point of view of overseas trade. So you see them in places like Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai.
The big port cities. Because the British were primarily focused on shipping things out of India.
Right. It was an extractive colonial logic. The location was determined by the easiest way to export. But post-independence, and with the development of modern logistics and a huge domestic market, that logic starts to change.
And this change brings us directly to a previous year question, doesn't it?
It does. A perfect example. This is from 2020, General Studies, Paper 1, Question 7. It asks, account for the present location of iron and steel industries away from the source of raw material by giving examples.
Oh, that's interesting, because the classic textbook example is that iron and steel is a weight-losing industry, so it should be located near the raw material to save on transport costs.
Historically, yes. That was the iron law of location for steel. You had to be near the iron ore and the coking coal. But the question is asking why it is now moving away.
So the answer must lie in the changing factors of location we just discussed?
Precisely. Markets and transport networks are becoming just as important, if not more important, than raw material proximity in some cases.
Can you give me a concrete example of that?
The best example is mini steel plants. They don't use raw iron ore. They use steel scrap and sponge iron, and they use electric furnaces.
So they don't need to be sitting next to an iron ore mine in Harkand.
Exactly. They can be located right next to their market, near the auto hubs in Pune or Gurugram, for example, where there's a huge demand for steel and a lot of scrap steel available for recycling.
I see. So the least cost calculation has fundamentally shifted. Transport costs have come down, so you can afford to move the inputs, but being close to your customer, the market has become more valuable.
You've nailed it. And there was another similar question in 2014, General Studies Paper 1, Question 23. Account for the change in the spatial pattern of the iron and steel industry in the world. It's the same core concept. You have to understand that whole chain, inputs, transport, factory, transport, market.
Yeah.
If any part of that chain changes, especially transport, the ideal location for the factory can shift.
That is a pro tip for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Don't just memorize the dots on the map. Understand the logic behind why the dots are moving.
Absolutely. Geography is dynamic, not static.
All right, let's do a rapid-fire classification. The text breaks down industries in several different ways, and I want to run through these so our listeners have the vocabulary locked in. Ready?
Let's do it.
First, on the basis of raw materials.
Okay, two main types. Agro-based, which is anything from the farm. Cotton, wool, jute, silk, sugar, tea, coffee, edible oils. And then mineral-based. Iron and steel, cement, aluminium, machine tools, petrochemicals.
Simple enough. Okay, next.
Yeah.
According to their main role.
Here you have basic or key industries versus consumer industries.
What's a basic industry?
A basic industry is one that supplies its products as raw materials to manufacture other goods. Think iron and steel or copper smelting. You don't go out and buy a sheet of raw copper for your house.
Right. A factory buys that copper sheet to make wires for a fan.
Exactly. And the fan is the product of a consumer industry, one that produces goods for direct use by consumers. Toothpaste, paper, sugar, fans.
Got it. Okay, next up, on the basis of capital investment.
This one's a bit more regulatory. It's small-scale versus large-scale industries. The distinction is defined by the maximum investment allowed on the assets of a unit. That monetary limit changes over time with government policy.
Okay, now a big one in the Indian context, on the basis of ownership.
4 important categories here. First, the public sector. Owned and operated by government agencies. Think BHEL, or SAIL, the Steel Authority of India Limited.
Second,
Private sector. Owned and operated by individuals or a group of individuals, like Pisco, Bajaj Auto, Dabur.
And what if it's a mix?
That's the third category, joint sector. These are ventures jointly run by the state and private individuals. Oil India Limited is a great example.
Okay, and the fourth type, it's a bit unique.
It is. It's the cooperative sector. These are owned and operated by the producers or suppliers of raw materials, the workers, or both.
Like the famous sugar industry in Maharashtra or Amul in Gujarat.
Exactly, or the coir industry in Kerala. In a cooperative, they pool their resources and the profits or losses are shared proportionately. It's a very specific and powerful socioeconomic model.
Fantastic. And finally, a simple one, based on the bulk and weight of raw material and finished goods.
Heavy industries like iron and steel, and light industries which use light raw materials and produce light goods like electrical industries.
Okay, we have our categories. Now let's dive into the specifics, starting with the agro-based industries. And the big one here has to be textiles.
The textile industry is genuinely unique. The source material explicitly states that it occupies a unique position in the Indian economy.
Why unique? What makes it so different from, say, the chemical industry?
Because it's the only industry in the country which is self-reliant and complete in the value chain.
What does that mean, complete in the value chain?
It means we do everything, from the raw material to the highest value-added product right here in India. From the cotton boll growing in the field, to the ginning, the spinning, the weaving, the dyeing, all the way to the finished garment on a fashion runway.
So it's a massive contributor.
Huge. It contributes significantly to industrial production, about 14%. It's the second largest provider of employment after agriculture, and a massive earner of foreign exchange.
Let's focus on cotton textiles for a moment. The text mentions a specific geographical concentration, at least historically.
Yes, in the early years, the cotton textile industry was highly localized in the cotton-growing belt of Maharashtra and Gujarat.
Okay, let's play the location factor game again. Why there?
A combination of factors. First, obviously, the availability of raw cotton from the black soil fields. Second, a ready market. Third, excellent transport, including accessible port facilities for export. Fourth, abundant and cheap labor.
And there's one more, a quirky geographical detail.
Yes, the moist climate.
Moist climate. Why on earth does that matter for making cloth?
Because if the air is too dry, the cotton thread snaps easily during the spinning process. The natural humidity in coastal Maharashtra and Gujarat was perfect for it. Before the invention of modern industrial humidifiers, geography was destiny for this industry.
That is fascinating. But today, the industry has a big structural problem, doesn't it? Something about a disconnect between spinning and weaving.
This is a critical nuance, and perfect for an economic analysis in a mains answer. The spinning sector in India is centralized and, frankly, world-class. It's concentrated in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. We produce exceptionally high-quality yarn.
Okay, so what's the problem if our spinning is world-class?
The problem is our weaving sector. Weaving is highly decentralized. It's spread out across hand looms, power looms, and small mills. Now, this is done for a good reason, to provide scope for incorporating traditional skills and designs into the fabric.
That sounds good for preserving culture and providing widespread employment, but
economically, it creates a massive bottleneck. We produce this world-class yarn, but our fragmented and often technologically outdated weaving sector cannot absorb all of it. It can't process that high quality.
so what happens to all that good yarn?
We end up exporting it. We
Wow.
export high-quality yarn to countries like Japan, and then we often buy back the finished high-quality fabric made from our own yarn.
That is a classic value loss for the domestic economy. We're selling the cheap intermediate good instead of the expensive finished product.
It's a huge structural weakness. The text says it explicitly. India has world-class production in spinning, but weaving supplies low quality of fabric as it cannot use much of the high-quality yarn produced in the country. That's a quote you should remember.
Wow. Okay, moving to another fiber, jute. The golden fiber.
Yes, India is the largest producer of raw jute and jute goods. Most of the mills are located in West Bengal, mainly along the banks of the Hooghly River.
Okay, location logic again. Why the Hooghly Basin?
It's a perfect storm of factors. 1, proximity to the jute-producing areas. 2, inexpensive water transport on the river. 3, a good network of railways and roads. 4, abundant water for processing the raw jute. And 5, cheap labor from West Bengal and the adjoining states of Bihar, Odisha, and UP.
But the jute industry is struggling, right?
It is. It faces stiff competition from synthetic substitutes, plastic bags, nylon packaging, and also stiff competition from other jute-producing countries, especially Bangladesh.
So what's keeping it alive?
There's been a push for product diversification, jute carpets, bags, home furnishings, and crucially, there's government policy. The National Jute Policy of 2005 had objectives to increase productivity, and the government also mandates the use of jute packaging for certain commodities to maintain demand.
Okay, let's look at sugar. This one has a very interesting geographical shift happening, which the text highlights.
It does. Now, the sugar industry is seasonal in nature, and it operates on two major constraints. One, the raw material, sugarcane, is bulky, so transport costs are high.
And two,
Two, in haulage, its sucrose content reduces. You have to crush the cane quickly after it's harvested, or you lose the sugar.
so the mills have to be located right in the sugarcane fields.
Ideally, yes. And for decades, that meant Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. But recently, there is a clear tendency for the mills to shift and concentrate in the southern and western states, especially Maharashtra.
Why? Why the big move south from the traditional North Indian belt?
Two main reasons are given in the text. First, a climatic reason. The cane produced in the southern states has a higher sucrose content because the cooler climate there ensures a longer crushing season.
More sugar per ton of cane. That's a straight-up efficiency gain. And the second reason?
The second reason is organizational. The cooperatives are generally more successful in these states.
That's fascinating. So it's a combination of a hard scientific climatic factor and a soft social organizational factor that's powerful enough to shift an entire industry across the country.
Precisely. The cooperatives in Maharashtra are often better managed, leading to better efficiency and profitability for the farmers and the mills.
All right, let's leave the farms and go to the mines. Mineral-based industries, the heavyweights. And the king of them all has to be iron and steel.
It's called the basic industry for a reason. All other industries, heavy, medium, and light, depend on it for their machinery. Steel is needed to manufacture everything from cars and trains to tiny safety pins.
And it's a heavy industry because the inputs are heavy and the outputs are heavy. What's the magic recipe for steel?
You need to memorize this ratio. It's approximately 4.2.1.
Okay, 4.2.1. Break that down for me.
It's 4 parts iron ore, 2 parts coking coal, and 1 part limestone. That's the core recipe.
And then you need a bit of manganese to harden the steel, right?
Correct. Now, because you need to transport tons and tons of this bulky stuff, it makes sense that the industry is heavily concentrated in the Chota-Nagpur Plateau region.
Right, we've all seen this on the maps. Jharkhand, Odisha, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh. It's the mineral heartland of India.
Exactly. It's got everything. Low cost of high-grade iron ore, high-grade raw materials in close proximity, cheap labor, and a vast growth potential in the home market.
But even with all these natural advantages, the text makes it clear that we are not performing to our full potential. Why is that?
4 specific challenges are listed, and they're chronic issues. 1, high costs and limited availability of coking coal. We have a lot of coal, but not enough of the high-grade coking coal needed for steelmaking, so we have to import it.
Okay, what's number 2?
Lower productivity of labor. 3, an irregular or erratic supply of energy. And 4, poor infrastructure.
Those sound like the recurring villains in the Indian infrastructure story. What are the difference between the big integrated steel plants and the smaller mini steel plants?
An integrated steel plant is a large, sprawling complex. It handles everything under one roof, from putting together the raw material to the actual steel making, rolling, and shaping. A mini steel plant, on the other hand, is much smaller.
Oh, what do they do?
They use electric furnaces, and their main inputs are steel scrap and sponge iron. They have re-rollers that use steel ingots as well. They're more flexible and, as we discussed, can be located closer to markets.
Got it. Integrated does it all from scratch.
Yeah.
Mini is more about recycling and specialized processing.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, let's talk about the second most important metallurgical industry, aluminum smelting.
Yes, aluminum is a fantastic metal.
Why is it so popular? What are its properties?
It's light, it's resistant to corrosion, it's a good conductor of heat, it's malleable, and it becomes very strong when it's mixed with other metals. It's used to make everything from aircraft and utensils to wires. It's a great substitute for steel, copper, zinc, and lead in many industries.
And the key input, the raw material, is bauxite.
Yes, a bulky, dark, reddish-colored rock. But here is the absolutely crucial location factor for aluminium, and it's not the bauxite, it's electricity.
Really? Electricity is more important than the raw material.
By far. A regular, assured supply of electricity is the single most important factor for the location of the industry. Smelting aluminium is incredibly energy intensive. The book says 18,600 kilowatt hours of electricity are needed to produce just 1 ton of alumina.
Wow, so you find these smelters located right next to sources of cheap, regular power.
Exactly. Near large thermal power plants or hydroelectric dams, you're basically exporting electricity in the form of solid metal.
That's a great way to think about it. What about the chemical and fertilizer industries?
The chemical industry is fast-growing and very diverse. It's broadly split into two sectors: organic and inorganic chemicals.
Give me some examples of inorganic chemicals.
Things like sulfuric acid, which is used to manufacture fertilizers, plastics, adhesives, paints, and nitric acid, alkalis, soda ash, which is used for making glass, soaps, and detergents.
And organic chemicals.
That's mainly petrochemicals. These are used for making synthetic fibers, synthetic rubber, plastics, dyes, drugs. These organic chemical plants are usually located near oil refineries or other petrochemical plants.
Because they need the byproducts of the oil refining process as their raw material.
Exactly. And closely related to this is the fertilizer industry. India is an agrarian country, so this is a huge and strategic sector.
And it's mostly centered around nitrogenous fertilizers, right? Mainly urea.
Primarily, yes. India is the third largest producer of nitrogenous fertilizers in the world. We have many plants, but we still have to import potash because we don't have commercially viable reserves of it.
And finally, in this mineral-based section, cement.
Essential for all construction activity. Houses, factories, bridges, roads. The raw materials are heavy and bulky: limestone, silica, alumina, and gypsum.
So the plants need to be near the quarries.
They do. The industry is strategically located to have access to those raw materials. An interesting point the text makes is about Gujarat. It has suitable locations for cement plants that give them access to the market in the Gulf countries.
Ah, so it's an export hub.
It is, and there's an important policy note here. The text mentions that decontrol of price and distribution since 1989 and other policy reforms led to rapid growth in this sector. It's a real success story of economic liberalization.
That's a great detail to remember. Okay, let's shift gears, pun intended, to the automobile industry.
The automobile industry, trucks, buses, cars, motorcycles, scooters, has seen a quantum jump in recent decades.
And the text credits this jump to liberalization.
Yes. After the 1991 reforms, the entry of new and contemporary models from foreign manufacturers stimulated demand almost overnight. It wasn't just about allowing foreign companies in, it was about how those new products created a desire and a new market among consumers, which led to very healthy growth.
And where are the clusters for this industry?
They're spread around major urban and industrial hubs: Delhi, Gurugram, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Kolkata, Lucknow, Bengaluru.
Which brings us to the modern giant, information technology and electronics.
Right, from transistors to televisions to computers, and the electronic capital of India is, of course, Bengaluru. But there are other very important centers now: Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, Lucknow, Coimbatore.
The economic impact here is primarily about high-skill employment, isn't it?
Massive, high-value employment generation. And a significant point the book makes is that this industry has a high percentage of women employees, which is a major factor for social change as well. The key success factor, it says, is the continuous growth in both hardware and software.
I want to link this to a PYQ because it fits so perfectly.
Let's do it.
This one is from 2016, General Studies Paper 2, question 16. It says, demographic dividend in India will remain only theoretical unless our manpower becomes more educated, aware, skilled, and creative.
That is a beautiful connection. It's perfect. The IT and the advanced manufacturing sectors are the engines required to actually use this demographic dividend. But, as the question implies and this chapter shows, they require a very specific set of skills.
So you can't just put an unskilled laborer in a software hub or on an automated car assembly line.
Not anymore. The growth of these modern industries is completely dependent on creating that educated, skilled, and creative manpower the question talks about. So if you're writing an answer on the demographic dividend, you have to cite these sectors as the destination for that dividend, but with the crucial condition that the skills must be developed first.
That's a great link. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room, or maybe the smog in the air.
Yeah.
Industrial pollution.
The dark side of growth. And the text doesn't shy away from this at all. It very clearly lists 4 major types of pollution caused by industry.
Okay, let's run through them. First, air pollution.
This is caused by the presence of a high proportion of undesirable gases like sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide, and also airborne particulate matter, which contains both solid and liquid particles like dust, sprays, mist, and smoke. The text specifically mentions the Bhopal gas tragedy as a stark, horrifying reminder of the potential toxicity.
A very sobering point.
Okay, second, water pollution, caused by organic and inorganic industrial wastes and effluents that are discharged into rivers. The main culprits are paper, pulp, chemical, textile, and dyeing, petroleum refineries, tanneries, and electroplating industries. They release dyes, detergents, acids, heavy metals, a toxic cocktail.
Third is thermal pollution. This is one people often forget about.
It is, and it's serious. It occurs when hot water from factories and thermal power plants is drained to rivers and ponds before it has been cooled.
And why is that so bad? I mean, it's just hot water.
It has a massive effect on aquatic life. The temperature of the water is a critical factor for many organisms and for the level of dissolved oxygen. It can kill fish and disrupt the entire ecosystem. It's not benign at all.
And finally, number 4, noise pollution.
This comes from industrial and construction activities, machinery, factory equipment, generators, saws. It's not just an annoyance. It can cause irritation, anger, hearing impairment, increased heart rate, and blood pressure.
So given all this, the text naturally calls for sustainable development.
Yes. The idea that economic development must be done in a way that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, it has to be done without damaging the environment.
I want to bring in a very recent TUIQ here because it feels like the UPSC is asking for the solution to the problems this chapter raises. This is from the 2025 General Studies Picker 1, question 6. It asks, explain briefly the ecological and economic benefits of solar energy generation in India.
That is a perfect forward-looking linkage. It's exactly where the conversation needs to go. The NCERT chapter highlights the pollution caused by coal-based thermal power plants, the ash, the heat, the smoke. The 2025 UPSC question is asking for the alternative.
And solar is that alternative.
It is. Solar energy directly solves the ecological problem. There's no smoke, no ash, no thermal pollution into rivers, and it offers huge economic benefits: energy security, reduced import bills for coal, decentralized power generation. So when you study pollution in this chapter, you should automatically be thinking about renewable energy as the answer.
You connect the problem from Chapter 6 to the solution that's dominating the current policy landscape.
That's how you build a high-scoring answer. You show that you can connect the dots between the foundational text and current affairs.
We have covered a lot of ground today. From the very definition of manufacturing to the specific industries, the complex logic of location, and the heavy environmental cost.
It's an incredibly dense and important chapter.
So let's try to summarize the key insights. If you had to put the main takeaways on a Post-it note for a final exam revision, what would it say?
Okay. First, manufacturing is fundamentally about the value chain. It's not just about making things. It's about systematically adding value to raw materials.
Right.
Second, location is a negotiation. It's a dynamic balance between raw material costs, labor, power, capital, and market access. And that balance is always shifting with technology.
Good.
Third, agro-industries are the critical bridge between the rural and urban economies. They tie the farm to the factory and to the global market.
And
Fourth, heavy industries are becoming more footloose. They used to be glued to the mines, but improvements in transport and technology are loosening that bond, pulling them closer to markets.
And the final aha moment from this chapter, the one big thought to leave with.
I go back to a quote from the text, which comes in the context of globalization. It says, "Self-sufficiency alone is not enough. Our manufactured goods must be at par in quality with those in the international market. Only then will we be able to compete in the international market."
That's a really powerful takeaway. It's not enough to just make in India. We have to make it world-class in India.
Precisely. That is the essence of true economic development and global competitiveness.
Well, there you have it. We've unpacked the backbone of the economy. If this deep dive helped you connect the dots between a cotton boll in a garment factory or a rock of bauxite in an airplane, make sure to subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP.
And again, a humble request. If you can, please consider supporting us on Patreon. It truly keeps these high-quality audio summaries coming your way. A huge thank you to everyone who already does.
Don't forget, the free notes and PYQs are waiting for you on the public Telegram channel. And if you want that premium experience, the organized notes, the extra PYQs, the model answers, just DM the public channel to join the private library. Keep learning.
Stay curious.
And we will see you in the next deep dive.